Right, morning everybody. I think everybody's here. Today we won't be long. Today is really a continuation of our last one or two meetings. Yes, somebody else, sorry. And the point of today is not to go over the job of the estate agent as much, but just to give you some idea of another, just to open your minds a bit to what you actually do for a living. And I harp on about this for quite a while, because I'm concerned that you guys don't understand what you should be doing. And it's something that worries me a little bit. So that's why I'm going on. So if you think that you know what you are as an estate agent, fantastic, thank God. Okay, it's quite easy. The get qualified and stay certified stuff is easy. We went through that last week, that we understand. Does anybody have a question about any of that, just by the way? If you have, send me a message and I'll answer you. But it's pretty simple. You just got to do stuff. The first thing you got to do is get your logbook. Finish your logbook, hand in your logbook, and then start your NQF4. You've got sort of 2 years to do that group of stuff, a bit longer actually, but you need to attend to that. The listing stuff we started out quite a bit with the prospecting stuff. If you want to see that video, you can look at it. It's in the group of videos. What prospecting is and what you should do for making a living. And I think you need to now start setting targets for yourself about those. You're making the targets for the calls, but if you're doing 50 calls a day and you haven't got 20 listings, then you're doing something fundamentally wrong. You must be able to get the answers to your calls. I mean, you must be able to get the listings. So mandates, active listings, show days is something that I'm not sure about. I see that on a Sunday, I drove around last Sunday and I saw a lot of agents are backing show days. So there's some kind of return to normal behavior. And I think we need to start looking at that, or you need to start looking at your area and your listings, and you will decide for yourselves whether you need show days or not. I think show days are very valuable. And yes, you don't sell a lot of houses on show days per se, but it shows the broader community that you're the expert agent and you're working on the Sunday, and people, they really, really do look and see that you are the dominant agent and you're on show. And if you can have 2 or 3 show boards with your name on and you can get show sitters, it shows people that, and people will be attracted to busy people. They don't want to give their listing to somebody who has got no listings or not working. They want to give it to the busy guy because they, in their minds, that he can do the job. And they're probably right. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So now the stuff that might be slightly newer for you is number 3. This is what I really want to talk about. Your job is to match a willing buyer and willing seller. It's not to, once you've listed the property, now we're going to broker the deal. Okay, it's not hard. All you have to do is put it on the interweb and people will phone you and say, can they view it? And you set it up. And then you match the buyer to the house, you show them the house. And you need to ask them the question, as we've discussed before, would you like this house? Yes. Would you like to buy this house? And you need to listen very carefully what they say, because they might say, yeah, I don't mind it. I wouldn't mind. And then you carry on talking and you walk out. They've said they want to buy it. If they said they want to buy it, you must take it off and say, yeah, sign. You know, why are you second guessing? You know, you don't walk into a bottle store and say, you know, I'd like to buy 6 beers and yeah, the weather's lovely. And then the person walks away and you walk out. You know, if you said you want it, then you want it. So you must listen to that. And you must react to people. So the problem that I get a lot of queries about is the buyers all say the same thing. I mean, the sellers all say the same thing. They all say, yes, you can sell my house, but I'm not accepting anything under 2 million rand. Now, if you haven't heard that before, then, I mean, it's ridiculous. There's not a seller in the world that's honest with you. They're all lying because they all know, they will accept less than 2 million. And you know, they'll accept less. And the buyers also know that. Why do we all know this? Because we look at the statistics, we can see what's on Property 24, and we can see what the Lightstones are saying they actually sold for. And there's like a 20% gap. So it's a fact like a cow. There's no doubt about it that people accept less than the asking price. And in the South African psyche, that's how we do things here. We know that there's a price, and we know what you can pay, and most things are negotiated. We also know that if you go to Pick n Pay, you don't get to negotiate. You understand? But in anything else, if you're buying a car, if you're buying a guitar on Gumtree, if you're buying a house, you can offer less than the asking price and mostly you get it. So there is a negotiation. It is in our mindset. The way South Africa operates is a mindset like that. Okay. So why am I saying this? Well, it's important because you need to tell the seller at the time, I understand that you want 2 million. I also want you to get 2 million. In fact, I'm going to try my hardest to get you 2 million. But please understand that you may not get 2 million. And I'm obliged in terms of the code of conduct, and you are, and it says that, to present any written offer. Now, this does two things. This tells the guy subconsciously, perhaps, that he can expect lesser offers from you. And it's important that, because people say, don't even bring me an offer of less than 2 million rand. Don't bring it. I'm not accepting it. But what you say to them then is, I have to bring it. I'm obliged to bring it. It's part of my duties as an estate agent. I've got a legal requirement to present it to you. You can always say no. And from our side, we want to bring it to him because we want to use it for price counseling, and we want to use it because we don't know what his circumstances actually are. Okay, so we take an offer, we take any offer, and we present offers. And that's good for us on the other side of the coin from the buyer. The buyer says, well, let's accept R1 million. So, well, it's on the market for 47 million, so I don't think he will accept $1 million. No, but I want to put an offer in. Well, the answer is yes, put the offer in. Put it in writing though. I'm not phoning the guy to check. I'm not going to email him and ask him, will he accept it? Because I can tell you now, any seller on the planet, if you say to him, oh, listen, I know you want 2.5, I've got an offer of 2 million. No, not in writing, just asking if you will accept it. The guy's immediately going to say no, because there's no commitment to it from anybody. So he'll just say, no, I'm not interested, not interested. It's very different though, if you bring a guy a written offer. You bring a written cash offer of 2 million rand on a 2.3 million rand property. The seller's in big trouble. He's got a major, major problem. Why? Because he knows he's not going to get 2.3. He's hoping for it. He didn't want 2 million, but it's on the table. There's a big black bag full of 100 rand notes sitting in front of him. And that's how I explain it to the sellers. I say to him, yeah, pretend there's a big black bag full of 100 rand notes here. There's 2 million rand on this table. Are you sure you don't want it? Because we can tear it up. Okay, and obviously you don't tear it up. What you say to him is, I understand that this offer of 1 million rand and you wanted 47 offends you. Why don't you counter it? Oh, well, I told you 47. Well, then counter it to 47. Put it in writing. Now, those big differences obviously typically don't happen because nobody would take an offer of 1 million on 47 million. But there's smaller margins where you're not sure. And please believe me, when that's at 2.5 million rand and you get an offer of 1.8, take it. Put it in writing, and if it's and many times, more times than you can expect, they are accepted. I'm constantly amazed at what people will actually settle for, because you don't know the situation. 3 months ago, when they gave you the listing, they were thinking of going to Australia. 2 months ago, they had made plans. 1 month ago, they got their visas. Tomorrow, they're on a plane. It's gone. They're putting their stuff into containers. Their life has changed fundamentally. Their mindset is different. Then in a month's time, when they're in Australia and you say, here's 1.5 million rand, I know you wanted 2. The guy's going to say, I'll just take it. Because why? His rates, his house is standing empty. They got many, many problems more than they had last week. So don't presume to know what your buyers are doing or what your sellers are doing. Okay. So you never decide what a seller will accept, and never walk away without a counter offer. Don't let people bully you. You're in charge of this operation. You tell the guy, hey, I'm the broker here. I'm presenting you an offer. Why? Because I'm obliged to, and I told you I'd present every offer to you. And listen, between you and me, it's an opportunity for you to push this guy up. So if you don't want 1.8, make it 2 million rand. Put any amount you like in there. Let's take it back to him. Remember, he's got the money. Let's get it from him. I'm working for you. I'm not working against you. I bring you this offer in good faith so we can start the negotiation. I don't bring you an offer, oh yeah, take it or leave it. No, we're gonna make this work for you. Okay, so make sure that you walk away with a counter offer, and then present the counter offer. Because as soon as you've got the counter, the same thing happens. The buyer always says to me, I'll offer the law 1.5 million. I'm not going up 1 more cent. And you go, oh, really? Okay, well, we'll see. Because it's a 2 million rand house. You've offered 1.5. Your wife loves it. You like it. You've offered 1.5. And I know you're not going up 1 more cent, but here's a counter offer at 1.7. And you stop talking. And the guy says, I told you I'm not going up 1 more cent. Well, don't have to tell me, my friend. You have to tell your wife that you're too schnorrer to go up by 200 grand on her dream house. Make it his problem. And it's going to be a big problem for him. Okay, because that's the right price. He's still getting it for 200,000 rand less than asking price. So you present the counter offer and you can say to the guy, are you seriously not going to take this? For 2,000 rand a month more than you wanted to pay, because it's only a couple of 100,000 rand more, you're going to walk away and lose this property. Your wife is going to be very angry with you. So I'll tell her that you're not taking it, but don't worry, you're not going to get away with it so easily. And at that point, if the guy says, really, listen, it's not about me not being wanting to go up. The problem I've got is I've only got a bond of 1.55 or 1.6, so I can't go up. Then you say, well, make it counter then. Counter the counter. Which is why that's what you do for a living. This is where you're actually brokering a deal. This is where sales skills, I suppose, come in. That I always talk about, you're not a salesman. Well, at this point, you probably are. Okay, this is where you're trying to get a guy to agree on a price, and now you're brokering a deal. But do you understand that at no time are we trying to sell a house here? We're actually just trying to get people's financial packages to fit together. Okay, and then you present the counter offer. And every time you're using it for price counseling. Now remember something about price counseling. Price counseling goes both ways. You can price counsel upwards. Mr. Buyer, look at the prices in the area. Look at what people have paid. You won't get it for that. Please go up by 200. Don't tell your wife that you don't want to pay another 100 grand. Don't make your life hard. It's a beautiful house. Take it. And for the seller, you say, don't be ridiculous. You can't get 2.5 for this. He has a lovely offer at 2.2. It's cash. You should take it. In the current economic climate, just turn on the news. Go to Clicks and buy something. Go buy a bottle of shampoo. Oh, you can't. Why? Because the country's on fire at the moment for stupid stuff. So take that offer. It's a good offer. It's cash. Get out of this. Get your money into a place where it's going to be valuable. So fear of God, you can scare people with stuff. And that's not really our intention, but you need to be honest with them and you need to guide them. That's what they're paying you for. Okay, so that's the willing buyer and willing seller stuff. There's nothing in there that you don't know. So what else is your job? So your job is to load and list properties, to get these listings that we've spoken about, to put them on the internet and to respond to calls. And for goodness sake, answer your phone when people phone you. Doesn't matter if it's at 10 o'clock at night. That's why you're an agent. That's why you get paid, because you're there and you're available. So if you're going to match a willing buyer and willing seller, let's say now you're in this position where people are starting to talk to you about buying or selling this house. Okay, so now you need to help people. You need to help people navigate the rules of real estate. Okay, so now if you think that you got an easy job and people think, oh, you're only an estate agent, so you just work on Sundays and sign a deal. You go, okay, lekker. How many acts do you think are involved in real estate transactions? How many pieces of legislation do I work with to get a deal through the deeds office? And not the attorney. They don't have to know about this because they know about it. You have to know about this. And this is part of your training. And this is why we get paid. Now, if you look at them, what are these rules that govern our business? And if you look at them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20. How many is that? 24 acts and things that work directly, that you have to know about to do a property transaction. Now you guys are going, yeah, I could never learn that. I'm new in the game. Well, the Constitution is one of them. The Alienation of Land Act, the amendment, the Estate Agents Affairs Act. Now there's the Property Practitioners Act, the Community Service Ombuds Act, the Companies Act, the CPA, Consumer Protection Act, Occupation Health and Safety Act, VAT, Regulation of Land Holding, Rental Housing Act, Subdivision of Agricultural Land, Deeds Registry Act, Income Tax Act, FICA, the Financial Intelligence Act, Money Laundering, Protection of Personal Information, the Protection of against Terrorism and Related Activities, Organized Crime Act, the Credit Act, the Banks Act, the Expropriation, Spatial Planning, the SPRUMA, National Building Regulations, the Water Act, Government Laws Act. Now you're going, yo, I didn't sign up for this. I'm not going to become a lawyer. Well, I've got good news for you. That's why you join a proper business. Why? Because our offers to purchase already incorporate all of that. So you don't have to know all these things. You just have to know about them, and you have to know they're applicable. Okay? And as you get more experience, you'll have less and less need to ask Linda and I or Kerry, the attorney, what should I do now? because the stuff's written there. You'll see in your offer that it says there, if this property is a sectional title, then this thing applies, or cross it out. Or it says there, if the purchase is a company, then these things apply, or cross it out. If he's a VAT vendor, then we need to add in the VAT clause. So these things are there and they're available to you and they're already in the agreements. So you don't need to freak out about this, but you do need to be able to understand them so that you can guide people through them. And these are the rules that govern our business. And this is what you need to do. Remember, as a broker now, you need to help guide people through this quagmire of rules and regulations and red tape and stuff that has to go down. I mean, can you imagine trying to write an offer to purchase by hand out of your head, trying to remember all these 35 acts that apply in each way and how they have to hang together and the time frames and who's going to happen to them. And never mind the acts that apply, what about the regulations and the little in-house rules that we have? For the banks won't accept the offer to purchase unless the signatures, a witness is signed. But does a witness have to sign for it to go through the deeds office? No. Okay, so it's another layer of complexity. Now, these layers of complexity are fantastic. Why? Because it allows you to differentiate yourself and become an expert in the field. If we didn't have these levels of complexity, anybody could be an estate agent. And this online estate agent that we hear about, where the buyer clicks on a picture and he says, I want to buy it. He fills in his name and his ID number, and I will buy, pays the money, and it's a done deal, would be able to happen because there would be no complexity. But because of this complexity, you need a person like you or me to go through it with the buyer and say, do you understand that this is a sectional title? Let me get the clearances for you. Let me tell you what the levy is. Do you understand that it's got a levy, a special levy to cover maintenance? Do you know that your household insurance is covered by the sectional title levies, or isn't, or whatever it is? So we add value, and this is where people who say to us, you just signed a piece of paper and you got paid 100 grand. You go, my friend, I didn't sign anything. What I did was I put a willing buyer and willing seller together. That's the easy part. Then I navigated the complexities of our law and the complexities of the relationship. Is it a cash buyer? Is it a bonded buyer? Is it a deceased estate? What kind of property is it? Is it an agricultural holding? Is it a sectional title? And all the interrelated stuff that goes together with this to make the deal work. So anybody that, anytime you think that I'm only an estate agent, you need to get your mind right. We are doing amazing stuff here. We've got an enormous amount of knowledge in your heads already. None of you are short of knowledge. And our agreement makes provision for that, because you can just look at the agreement, the voetstoots clause, and you kind of know what it is. And you've got access to people who can tell you more about it. And you can go to the attorneys to give you more and more about it. And as you get more and more into the business and more experience, you'll know more and more. And eventually you'll understand lots and lots, and you realize that you know nothing. And then you're back to square one, which is what happens when you become an expert in anything. Because the more you know, the more you realize you don't know anything. Okay. So these acts are important, but you don't have to know them. You only have to love them. And I love these acts because they add layers of complexity. And it's good for negotiating, and it's very good for talking to buyers or sellers that know too much or think they know everything, or give you trouble about why we should cut your commission because it's such an easy deal. And you can add these things in. No, it's not such an easy deal, this. This is a deceased estate, Mr. Buyer. We're going to have to go to the master of the Supreme Court to get this stamped and his permission. It is going to take time. The clearance certificates are going through the city of Johannesburg. And all of these acts and regulations that add a layer of complexity that the average man can't get around. And you should love them, because if he could get around them, you haven't got a job anymore. Because our job is to unbundle the complexity and make a simple picture on the internet, somebody's dream home, something that can happen quite seamlessly. And that's what we do. We take away the complexity and just add an easy, smooth sailing to it. Okay, so those are the acts. Right. So managing these layers of complexity is exactly what we need to do. And remember that we add layers of complexity on top of it. because all of these acts are the fundamental basis of our country's laws, and that they are the basis of the whole thing. And we've got a constitution that sits on top of that. And even in a lease agreement, our constitution is there, every single line of the agreement. Because why? There's nothing that can be written in South Africa. There's no agreement that can be made. You know, I can't say to Wade, okay, Wade, let's make an agreement. Every time you don't get a listing, I'm going to slap you. Now, he can agree to that, and he should. And I can agree to that because I like it. And then we can sign this agreement, but it's not legally valid. Why? Because it conflicts with our constitution. Okay. So you can't agree to break the law. We can't agree that in our sectional title unit, we're going to be able to run over kids because they shouldn't be playing in the car park. And we all agree, we vote, yeah, no, we all agree, that's cool. Well, unfortunately, you can't do that. You cannot contract outside of the law. And in our law, obviously the constitution is the supreme. So these layers of complexity that are added, now we add on top of those even more. What do I mean? Well, any of these things, the offer to purchase, the life right, installment sale agreement, they've all got terms and conditions that are imposed by us. So we put things like suspensive conditions in. So even if you sell a house to a law professor, whoever who wrote the constitution, he's not going to know about the complexities of our agreement. And this is, again, where you should have confidence in yourself as property brokers, because we're not simply order takers. We don't just put a property on the internet and then get a phone call and write something down. We have to decipher and unbundle these layers of complexity. And even in the most sophisticated buyers, the guys with 100 properties, these investors, they need your help to unbundle these layers of complexity. Why? Because the suspensive conditions need to be explained. This guy's got cash. The cash is coming out of a life policy. The life policy unbundles in 32 days. From that point, then we've got a fully fledged deal, because the deposit's available. The balance of the money is coming from a bank account in Switzerland. We're going to have to get clearance from the Reserve Bank. These are the layers of complexity that you need to explain, and you're going to get the answers from the attorneys and from I suppose, from me, if I know. But I don't know the answer to that one. Okay. The funding conditions, where's the money coming from? How's it coming? When's it getting paid? The funding conditions, especially regarding banks, are very complicated. You know, you're going to take the buyer to 4 banks. Okay, so they all gave you a bond. Cool. I'll take the quickest interest rate. Well, it's not so easy. Now, you need Jenny to explain to you that the lowest interest rate isn't always the best deal. Why? Well, the one bond will give you prime -5. That's an awesome interest rate. What's the downside? They're only going to give you a 50% bond. You're going to find 50% out of your pocket. Okay, that won't work. Well, exactly. So we get somebody like Jenny as our in-house bond originator to explain to the clients the complexity around bonds. If you and your wife sign, they're going to look at both of you. In fact, if you and your girlfriend sign, they're going to look at both of you. And because you are weaker than her, you've got more debt and less thing, you're the one that's actually going to make the deal not work. Better put it in her name. Or better put it in a company's name, or take it out of a company's name. So all of these things are the layers of complexity that we need to work around. The funding conditions, the subject to sale, what has to happen? No, they have to sell their house. Okay, I've heard from the other estate agent that they've sold their house. Well, what does selling your house mean? Does it mean they've signed an offer to purchase? Does it mean that the suspensive conditions on the offer to purchase have been met? Does it mean that the house is transferred? Does it mean that they've actually got the money and the guarantees are available? You see, because we need to understand that. Because you can't say in an offer to purchase that this offer is subject to the sale of number 12 Smith Street. Because nobody knows what sale means. So it's not only subject to sale, it's subject to the sale and successful transfer. And if you really want to be pedantic and careful, the sale, successful transfer, and that the funds become available to me to pay for this house. Okay, so we are trying to help people get that through, because a sale means nothing. Can a sale be reversed? If it's subject to a sale and a guy gets a cash offer, is it sold? Nod your heads or no? Yes, it's sold. Now, is your agreement then complete? Yes, in terms of that, because you said subject to a sale, so your agreement's complete. But what's the reality? What happens if the cash doesn't materialize and his deal doesn't go through? Then you have got a right to, the owner here is going to say, I'm sorry, you signed an agreement that said you had to sell. You did sell. You owe me the money for my house. I'm suing you for damages. Can he do that? Even if his deal didn't work? Yes, he can, because the agreement just said it was subject to sale. What it didn't say was subject to successful sale. So his sale was successful for 2 days until it turned out the guy didn't have the cash. So that deal falls, your deal will fall. So you need to word it properly. And this is what makes our jobs, full stop. It makes our job. That's what we do. So we put these things in the right thing. So statutory and mandated requirements are, like I mentioned earlier, if you're selling a house from a deceased estate, you need to put in the agreement that this offer is subject to the approval of the master. Why? Because the master of the High Court, if he says no, you're not transferring. That's it. Full stop. He wants to know that everybody's happy, that nobody's getting a rough deal here. So the layers of complexity and the stuff that we add gives us our jobs, and this is why we get paid. And these are the things that are quite irritating. What you want to do is keep them simple and keep them very, very clear. So when you say that the money is going to come from a sale, by when? When is it coming? How's it coming? Is it coming in a big packet of cash? Is it a bank guarantee? Is it a guarantee from your bank? Is it a check? Is it a gold tooth? What is it that you're going to use to pay? Where is it? When's it? How much is it? So it must be a reasonable man reading it. Don't write in legalese. Don't become one of these agents that's a part-time attorney, because all of those kind of part-time attorney stuff makes it difficult for other people to read. What you want to do is have a person, use me as your frame of reference. If I can understand it, then anybody can understand it. So write it simply. Write it for Anton. It's money coming from cash by Wednesday the 22nd into the bank account. I can understand that. Okay. Okay, we haven't got long to go. Good last thing. To be a successful agent now, you need to know when to pivot and when to change focus. Now, this is quite, it seems, we get tied up on deals. So I see a buyer, take him to the house, loves it, love it. I'm putting an offer in. You get the offer. In the meantime, he's sending to Jenny. She does a pre-approval from him. And what happens? Boom, can't afford it. Now what? Now you lose interest in the guy because you've got other people interested. But you shouldn't lose interest in him because he's a willing buyer and he's an able buyer. He just can't buy at that level anymore. So remember, buyers fall in love with things and sellers work on money. So you don't have to worry about, for the buyer, you need to guide the guy and find the thing that he loves for what money he can afford. Okay? It is absolutely, if you take people to 147 million rand houses on Camps Bay or on Clifton, they're going to fall in love with them. And when I get a job, I'll buy it, they tell you. Okay, so you got the wrong buyer immediately. If you can't afford it, you don't want to deal with the people, because you don't want to introduce people to a thing and they can fall in love. It's not fair to them, and it's going to take up a lot of your time. Okay, so remember that buyers are completely emotional. They buy for completely the wrong reasons, and we've all bought shit that we're sorry about, and that's what buyer's remorse is, and that cognitive dissonance after you've purchased is as a result of you buying out of emotion and not fact. Okay, now if you just look at your cell phone that you've got, the cell phone that you've got is completely unnecessary. We all know that. None of us use our cell phones to their full potential. Most of us just look at cat pictures on Facebook and make the odd phone call. The new cell phone, the new Samsung Note, I think, is a 34,000 rand piece of equipment. Now you've got to ask yourself, does Anton really need a 34,000 rand computer in his pocket to look at cat pictures on Facebook and send the odd phone call out? I don't think he does. And then there's some other crowd that got a Z Fold phone, and the new Z Fold is how much? 68,000 rands for a cell phone. And it's just one of these, and it opens up like that, and it's got a bigger screen. Now, what's going to happen if Anton gets that? I'm going to see bigger cat pictures on Facebook and be able to talk to you on a phone for 68,000 rand. It makes no sense. So the people who get those are completely emotional, because that's what happens. When you sell them, it's only about the money. Okay, so but be careful of buyers. They don't know what they can afford, and it's very good practice to, when you meet a buyer and they're serious, is to hook them up with Jenny. And you can be quite bullshit about it. And you can use the seller as the excuse. And you can say things like, I am not permitted in terms of my mandate to take people to view the house without pre-approving them. It's a security feature, so we know who you are. And because in the modern world in South Africa, I can't just take random strangers into people's houses. And secondly, I want to provide you with the best possible service, and the client, my seller, I want him to have the best possible experience and service. So I want to know from you, you know, what you can exactly afford so we can do the deal properly. And that's not an unfair thing to say. And I use my brother-in-law as an example. He sells used cars. Well, he's got quite anyway, he's got a used car place. And when you come in to buy a car, he doesn't say, what car do you want? He doesn't say, what color do you like? Do you want mags? Do you want a V8? You know, have a look at this one. He says, sit down, let's have a chat. How much money you got? So, well, I can afford I don't know, 50 grand. Well, how are you going to pay for it? No, I'm going to get financed. Have you got a job? Yes, I've got a job. Show me your pay slip. Yeah, and he looks, you can afford 4,000 Rand a month. And 4,000 Rand a month gets you about 110,000 Rand car. Let me show you what you can buy. He walks straight past the BMW, straight past the Mercedes, straight out the back, past the Volksies to the Mini Miners that's full of rust, and says, here's your car. I said, but I want that one over there. He says, well, your payslip doesn't say that. Your payslip says that you want a Mini. Your payslip doesn't talk in BMW, doesn't understand what he's saying. So when your payslip starts talking BMW and can speak German, then we can look at BMWs and Mercedes. At the moment, your payslip is speaking Indian. You have to get a, Hyundai or whatever. Do you understand? So that's how you must deal with buyers. How much can you afford is the better question to ask than what would you like? Because everybody wants a palace. I want a house with 4 bathrooms and a jacuzzi in each room and enough place for my horses and my cats that I like to look at on Facebook. But what's the reality? Yeah, I'm going to live in a flat. Okay, 1 bedroom. If I'm lucky, it'll have a door on it. And that's what you need to understand. On the other side of the coin, the sellers are driven by greed and fear of loss and financial calculations. There's no seller in the world that says, I want to sell this place to him for under my selling price because I like him. That doesn't happen so often. Now I can tell you, it's not like really what's going on. I really like that guy. I'm going to lose 500 grand here because of that. Such a nice man. Okay. What they will do is they'll say, listen, I've got to settle my bank. I've got to clear my bond and I need 50 grand to pay a deposit on my next house. Or I'm getting divorced. My wife's getting half of the proceeds. Therefore, I have to make money out of this. Otherwise, I've got to find the money out of my pocket. Okay. So the reason for selling is going to determine the price in a direct way. And the other thing that's going to worry the price or sort the price out, of course, is the settlement at the bank. So there's 2 things there. You either worry about the bank, because you need to ask, and you can look on Lightstone and it says that the bond is currently 2 million. If they've had the place for 3 years, it's probably still 2 million, and they want 2.5, and that makes sense, but they're only going to get 1.5. They're going to have a shortfall at the bank. If they're in good standing, that can be a problem because the bank won't like that and they're going to make them pay. If they're in arrears and in pressure, take the offer because the banks will settle. In the COVID world right now, the banks will amazingly write off 50% of a loss, 60% of the shortfall. They will make a deal with the seller because they have to get it done. Okay, and maybe just the last thought is this, the best fit. You'll be amazed what people will accept. So Oak wants to see a 3-bedroom house from you with a pool, and you say to him, listen, I don't think you can afford it, but I've got a lovely 2-bedroom townhouse. Let me show it to you. You can afford it. You don't know what a person will accept. Show them the right stuff. It's very offensive to people when they say they want a 4-bedroom house and you show them a townhouse. It's not so offensive when you say, I've got 4-bedroom houses. Jenny tells me you can't afford it. This is what you can afford. Do you want to buy or what? Because less than that, they're wasting your time. Right. Get to work. Go and sell some houses. I hope you've had some stuff going on in your head there. If you've got any questions, send me a chat and I'll answer them for you. Right. Have a nice day.
Thanks, Anton.
Pleasure.
Thanks for the training, Anton.
Thanks, Anton.